let us know.
He backed me into a corner with that one, Cody, because he did say yesterday it would be nice to record it, and I was like, "Yeah, good call." And then this morning, I was like, "I have rust all over the insides of my body, which is exactly what we want to show off to people when we
Right.
demo this." All right, just a second. I was talking while trying to get my screen sharing on, but I think we're finally there. Bam. So we were using a point of sale system called Mobi, and we loved it. However, it did require we were in the store. So when the pandemic happened, and the teachers all assigned us, be productive in some way in your pandemic vacation, uh, our assignment was to build a point of sale system for our store. Uh, and when we started that, the utmost important thing for us was making sure that it was browser based, something we could access from anywhere, because, our store was closed for a period of time at least. It's great for productivity. It's bad for boundaries between personal space and work. I was able to do an FOC on my honeymoon, on my phone, on a train, on public Wi Fi in Scotland. So, like, if that's your jam, I've got something for you. But yeah, it is kind of a browser-based point of sale system. It does basically everything to run your store at this point, or at least everything to run our store. And we are in our store a lot, so all of it is generally road tested and proved like bread in the store before we bake it and sell it. Not going to do that one again. So we're going to show you kind of four main modules here, the four main parts of CSA. It does a ton of other things besides what we're going to show you, but rather than this balloon into a 2 or 3 hour thing, we're going to try and keep it to like an hour and a half, and focus in on what I think of as setting the table, or at least introducing how we approach data, transactions, customers, organizing all of that in a way that you ideally would be able to then modify for your own store.
Okay.
So
Can I give you some history with us?
please
Yeah.
do, yeah.
We used Comic Suite for a little while. That's back 15 years ago at this point. And then we moved to QuickBooks POS, which we've been using since 2018.
Okay.
And we jumped into that one because it's inventory and stuff in the back end. It's great for doing inventory, POs, and this kind of stuff. We do a lot more than comics. We're also a game store. We have a pinball arcade, so we
Nice.
don't going through. But so we're looking for something to kind of replace QuickBooks as its time is limited. We know that it could be a Windows update away from, sorry, you don't have POS anymore. But
I'm
what
familiar.
we're looking for is for something that can replicate some of the back end stuff, reporting, inventory, purchase orders by vendor, all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
That is
You got that.
perfect. And it also sounds like our stores are spiritual siblings. We also have some pinball machines in ours. We do a lot more than just comics. But what Django often likes to point to people is that comics are about the most inherently complex widget that you can try to organize and distribute outside of like car parts if you
Medical
want.
supplies, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So we've found that like focusing on comics allows us to kind of then generalize, and my dream is to have this apply to like record stores as well, as long as you could bring in an effective catalog. So to that end, we're showing you a lot of this stuff for comic books. You will see games, food items, cards, all of that kind of trickling through as we're going through it. Just know that basically, if it works for comics, it's going to work for anything else. Even like for record stores, you could like subscribe people to an artist, and then when a new record comes out, put it in that series, and they would. Anyway, that's my dream. Um,
Day.
but yeah, the back end stuff specifically, when we started building this, we were very mindful of basically the register backwards. Like, how do we manage our inventory, do inventory updates in a way that doesn't force us to shut down or lose 2 days of sleep? Um, all of that. And then once we've been using it in our store, we've kind of been working on the customer facing side of it. So we have built a portal that allows customers to look at your pre orders or the new books that came out that week and request alternate covers or subscriptions that way. Um, do you, in your back endedness, do a lot of back issues?
So pretty much everything is removed from our POS. We ring everything up as new comic and price, back issue price.
Yeah.
we use Excel. They manage all of our customers and holds and all that stuff. But yeah, we do a lot of back issues, but we don't necessarily care to track what each one is.
Cool.
A 199 back issue is the same as any other 199 back issue to us.
That is exactly how our shop was operating when I started working there, and it was just a cash machine. It was like 4 at $3.99, and there was a beautiful simplicity to that for sure. Well, we are going to go into this and start with the homepage. You will find that we do love the beautiful simplicity of X at $4.99. We are also neurotic and anal. So there's a lot of data that is tracked throughout here that allows for all sorts of types of reporting and access to like minute sales things. Like what is the busiest hour of my store so I can make my staffing the most logical for all of that. So that's what we try to do. And assuming that we can break it down into the smallest pieces and allow other stores to then modify that to fit their workflow. We had demoed another point of sale system in a satellite store that we had for a while. It really demanded that we run our store and like check in and stuff in a certain way and workflow. And me more than Django, I hate being told what to do or how to run my store. I don't sell comics so that I can do it a certain way. Yeah, totally. So here you can see the homepage, and what you're seeing right here is a little birthday calendar with a lot of your customers or our customers' names. Right off the bat, I want to tell you that Django's a big fan of Mad Magazine, so he changed everyone's name on this demo account to be Newman. We are not like comfortably nestled into the cult lands of California desert and serving the Newman family. You'll find some email addresses and phone numbers obfuscated as we go through here. But the homepage has a bunch of stuff like widgets when they were introduced in Mac OS X, which is my favorite reference to make. And I don't know that anyone has ever resonated with it when I say it. But on the homepage here, you can see things like time clocks. So right now we have a larger staff than we've ever had. A lot of the tools that we've built are to help manage workflow and employees being able to disseminate messages in a way that everybody can get. So right here, everybody has a 4-digit PIN number that is used various places on the site if you make significant changes to items, prices, inventory, or just clocking in. They just enter their 4-digit number right here. It'll clock them in. Same thing. When they're done with their shift, you can clock it out. And then, of course, output any type of reports that you've got for payroll to report to your person or your program, whatever you use. The homepage as well, you can see a couple tools to, stop the bleeding that all of us as comic retailers are familiar with, which is people ordering things and then maybe moving away or shipping out for deployment and not telling you, and you continuing to order comics for them. So right down here, you can see a little bit about how much money you've got wrapped up in various locations by periods of time. So right here, you can see that we have 25 contacts comprising $1,200 worth of merchandise right here that are 20 plus weeks old. Right below that, you can see a list of customers who have exceeded what we call delinquency parameters. It's showing you your 5 oldest accounts. So your 5 oldest items in customer accounts here. So Naomi Newman here has one item that's been there for 914 days for $27. The goal with this is for at slow times in your shop, your employees can take a look at this, which ours are clearly not, and get a hold of some of these customers so that you can stop that bleeding. Again, a different way of accessing that same information is right here, just looking at how much money you have wrapped up by periods of time. You can also, from the homepage, see how you're doing that day and that week compared to the previous week. There's some color coding here if you're up, down, or even. It's helpful for us. We tell our staff kind of a goal amount that we're at the week at any given time. And it helps them put their sales caps on if we are below that. We like to be pretty transparent with our staff about finances and stuff. So again, a lot of that stuff is available here. If you generally have only like one person working or yourself, there is a single user mode that can reduce some of the amount of pin punching in based on your staff. How much staff you got?
We have 11 employees right now.
Oh yeah, buddy,
Cool.
right there with us. Okay, so you're either very familiar with or in that same area of like keeping track of information and people. And, when I
My
started
God.
at our shop, it was like there was three of us. So um,
Yep.
good problems to have. But there is also the opportunity for anybody who has an account, employees especially, to leave reviews or ratings of comics that have come out. It can be old things or new things. The goal of that, in my mind, is internet integration that allows customers to look up the customer at your or the employee at your store that they love or resonate with the most and see, like, hey, tell me what Django has given a 9 or above to, and they have access to ordering those things. Also, we do a podcast every week where we rate books because nothing feels better than putting a subjective numerical score next to art. Um, absolutely, absolutely. From the homepage here, you have a constantly generated bestsellers report. So what that is it's showing you what you're selling so far today. As you get on or just are on the homepage, you'll be seeing the quantity of items that you've sold so far today, what they are. Pretty much everywhere throughout the website is a link, so you don't have to lose your place as you're forming questions and finding answers at the same time. So I can just jump out to any of these things with a link at any given point. I think of that as lateral movement, but that's a pretty pretentious way of referring to being able to open new tabs.
It's a football thing.
It's not. It's not. It's like a
Lateral
psychology thing. It's like metaphorical stuff. But yeah, it can be helpful to see what categories you're selling that day. It also lets you know what sort of shelf inventory you have for those over here, what you're making off of them. All of that is easily able to be filtered down, so you can change the category or the sales range. And you can also get an instance of this type of report in your reordering process. You can generate a report that will show you all of the books, for example, that you've sold in the last week, and you can build your replenishment orders for your store from that, and combine other modalities as well.
Can you set reorder points for items?
Totally, yeah, yeah. The point of sale system that we came from actually had a reorder point and a minimum point, and that was just a slight distinction. One was for X period of time after an item comes out, and then after that period of time is over, it just reverts to the minimum point. That's something you can even see if we've defined an item to have one. It's visible right here. So this Adventure Time Compendium does have a minimum point of 1. I can edit that here. And when I'm doing my ordering process, I can just click a button and gather all of my minimum points. It will show me, or gather all of the items whose inventory is currently below the minimum point that we've defined. And it knows if those items are on order, and it takes those into account in suggesting numbers for you.
All right, great.
I love that you asked that, because usually I have to explain that process or why it's valuable to people in these, and you clearly know it. Right here, as you enter and create contacts, which can be distributors, employees, or customers, there's an option for you to put their birthday in. So the homepage here shows you recently past or upcoming birthdays. If it's people whose name and face I know by memory, I'll give them a call and tell them happy birthday. What you're not seeing right here is a pretty robust messaging system that we've created for CSA. It started as just sort of a way to post notes to have people log in and see. And we've created a pretty seamless way to define which employees you're sending messages to, whether it's all of them. They can be archived and saved. You can thread replies into it, and it begs for a pin at that moment, so it'll know who's replying and who has read these things. It's really, really helpful for, making rules from on high and making sure that all of your employees have heard it or gotten the message. And you can see, like, oh, it's been 7 days and this person still hasn't seen this. So that can be really helpful. Django's always pretty up on his messages, so we don't see it on this demo account here. That's the home page. It's just like a welcome, friendly, hi, you're using CSA, and the person speaking is very warm. What I'm going to do right here is search the word Django, not just because it's a fun word, but because when I search that word to find Django's account, it's a good instance of showing that as often as possible, we try to make a single search be a valuable yield. So over here, you can see any items that match that search term are going to be over here with sales information and links out to those items. And then any customer who matches that is over here. We've even got it associating Django's family with it. And you get a little bit of information about those folks from this window as well, like his fake address or fake phone number. More importantly, what the date of his last transaction was, how many items are currently set aside for him, and how much money is sitting in his file waiting for him
Bad
to
boy
pick it
this
up.
month.
Yeah, it's all right, bud. I'm going to click his account and we're going to jump into this thing, which is a great moment for me to take a sip of this tea. Warm. So it is really easy to create a new account for a customer. We start most interactions at the register by asking the customer if they're in the system, if we don't recognize them. If they're not, they know that. It's really easy to just hit create contact, and all CSA needs, or what I like to put in, is first name, last name, email address, phone number, and pronouns. You can go way more granular with it, like their bag and board preferences, birthdays, auto sub preferences, which we'll get into all of that later. But if they are in the system, they'll say, I'm Django Newman, and we'll get right into their account. And you're seeing a couple cool little bits of information about this staff member, Django Super Admin. Some buttons right here that allow you to start a transaction for this customer. New transaction just starts an empty transaction the CSA knows is associated with this customer. New transaction from pulls defaults to putting everything that's currently set aside for them into the transaction. At any given time from any page, this Anon transaction button is available. You can click that to start a transaction for anybody if they don't want to be in the system. And anonymity is a resource that's scarcer and scarcer. So we like to make sure people can do that. CSA will just log it as an anonymous transaction. You can also have internal correspondence about a customer here. Like this guy always sticks us with Crossed and My Little Pony comics. It's one of the unique oddities about Django, but we love him for it.
The story.
Also help. Yeah, it's the story. Yeah, and that inevitable crossover is going to make all those issues valuable. It's also a really good way to, like, you know, his daughter is really quiet and her name is Eden. Just made that up. But you can do whatever you want. He's insecure about his teeth. Don't stare at his mouth. That sort of stuff. Helpful. You can make these new contact notes and the customer never sees them. Again, all of this is kind of register backwards. When we're showing you the customer facing side, we'll make that loudly known. But the bulk of the stuff in a person's account are in these tabs right here. So we're going to go through a couple of the main ones. Holds tab is the way we keep track and organize a customer's subscriptions. That's a holdover term from an older point of sale system, but we're used to it. Holds. Yeah, you get it, you know. You had mentioned, like, at any given time you can have a Microsoft update and not have access to your stuff, but a good priority of problem solving, because that would have happened if you were still on Comic Suite, which was like, we spent a year just getting lifeboats of Comic Suite people onto here because, like, there was that impending shutdown. Kind of altered our priorities for about a year because we were like, we got to make another inflatable life raft.
You kept surprising different people too. It was awesome.
Yeah, my lung capacity got strong blowing those up.
Yeah, I did Comic Suite. We lasted 1 year with it.
Yeah.
Right, better than this in Excel.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, it's a priority on ownership, right? Not being a small cog in a larger machine, which is really our goal with CSA. Anybody using it, there is a link out to help everywhere on the website. It comes directly to Django and I. People are always like, oh, I don't want to inconvenience you. And we're like, we are here for it. Never meant to, like, build a point of sale system to sell to people. So we take that really seriously. But you can search for subscriptions here. So I've had a long goal here of getting Django into waterfowl. So if I search Darkwing, I could potentially add the subscription for Darkwing Duck for him here. Because CSA keeps track of all the issues, issue sequence numbers, and series. You can subscribe people to any cover of a book. It defaults to sort of advertise on the A cover here because that's the easiest to deal with. But it's got the most recent search result up the top, and you'll find older series the further down you go. I do notice he's turned off the subscriptions for these that I've placed, so well played, Django.
You'll never get me to buy Darkwing Duck.
But over here on the right side, it says active subscriptions. So this is going to be an alphabetical listing of all the books Django is subscribed to. Convenient, he is a DC fan, and Absolute is quite beginning of the alphabet. You're getting some information about the subscriptions here. So CSA is going out and grabbing the covers for the issues in that series. It's going to grab you the first one here and then the final or most recent one here. If a series has ended, you'll find those retired series at the end of the list. This is the icon for turning subscription on or off. It's the same as over here. If I wanted to make sure he got Gargoyles Darkwing Duck cover H, I would toggle that on. If I want him to stop getting Absolute Cat Mode, I could toggle this off. You'll find that a lot of places on the website, from within transactions, if they're not subscribed to a book they're buying. Right here is where you can easily change the quantity that that customer is subscribed to. So if he wants more than one, easy. If he is shipping out for that inevitable deployment I keep trying to get him to go on, I could use these start and end fields to define which issue his subscription should start or end at. It defaults to starting at 0 and ending at a very high number, assuming that they want an active ongoing subscription. But it can be very easy to make sure you're not ordering past someone's deadline for leaving with these fields. It also lets you know right here the highest ordered issue that you've got, the highest received, and then the highest solicited. So if you are a store where when somebody wants to stop getting a book, if you've already ordered the next issue for them, you can use this field with these fields to make sure they still get that next one they already ordered, but then have their subscription stop. Right here, you can see a little note about auto subs. Kind of like minimum points, this requires a small explanation. Basically, anytime a new series is coming out or from the middle of a series, you have the option to create an auto sub, which is your ability to look up an already existing series that has subscribers and pick and choose from that list who you would want to move over, copy to that newer series. When you make that decision, it gives you a bunch of information about each of those customers, like how much money is set aside for them, how many items are set aside for them, how long it's been since you've seen them. And within their settings, they can opt out to make sure they're never included with that. But if they are auto-subbed, it's always traced and trackable. So within their subscriptions, it would let you know that right here if they're ever curious. Absolute Batman is a great example, or the Fraction Batman. These are books that I looked up the previous Batman series and copied the subscribers over for. Pretty straightforward list of subscriptions there. Again, you can turn them off. You can search through them to find keywords. Requests is how we place special orders for customers in our store. You'll find Django's on orders are usually filled with a bunch of glow-in-the-dark covers, like this one. Django, are you aware of this book, Banana #1, with a glow-in-the-dark cover?
Yeah. I've talked about it with everybody involved. Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't know I like bananas, so they didn't actually.
Django's like obsessed with the history of bananas and the Gros Michel's, position in society and what preceded it. But I saw this come through the FOC today, and I make sure and get his glow-in-the-dark box filled. But you can place requests for customers from within an order or on their account. You can search up these items over here. If you've got them on order, they're listed over here. I'm going to search up Absolute Jeff, and we're going to place a theoretical request for Django to get this Absolute Edition right here. And then a little bit later on, when we show you how the ordering system works, we'll show you where CSA has stored this until it's attached to an order. But it's a good example because it does show a handful of information and paradigms that we use in CSA. So CSA went out and grabbed the image cover right here. It knows that at least in the past, this item has been available from both Lunar and Penguin. Both of these are links out to that distributor's listing for that item, so you can check stock status if you need. We do have a setup for at midnight each night, CSA goes out and checks the stock status of items on their website. That's 24 hours right now. Right, Django?
Yeah, it's only in our store for now because it's
Okay.
a little bit delicate, but yeah, we're working on having that communicated to everybody.
When I hand this over to Django, I'm going to take off for a second. You're going to notice I come back with a lighter shirt on, less heavy. Right here, it's going to give you a little information about if you have any on order, if you have requests for those copies on order, and if you have incoming quantities, if you have any that are left for the shelf, which can tell you whether or not you need to place a request type where you add this to a custom order and ask for it, or if you just want to catch it on FOC or check-in. So in that situation, you've already got them coming in. You don't need to increase your order, but you still want the system to flag it and put it aside for a customer. Because this item has already come out and we don't have any inventory for it in our store, CSA is suggesting that we add this to a custom order. If the FOC hadn't passed yet or hadn't been received yet, it would kind of nudge you in the other direction. But as often as possible, we just try to give you information and let you make your own decisions. Again, see my hatred of being told what to do. Anytime you place a request, you can leave a little note here as well. Cool thing about requests, Django will show you a little bit about it in our transactions, but we built a system for prepayment for special orders. Django and I inherited our store. It was in like a small, tiny art studio for many years. We've moved it a couple times and changed slowly some of the procedures of the shop, but being able to build this point of sale system offered us the opportunity to implement prepayment for things, which means that the bookshelf behind the register that was always full and usually only got about 50% of things picked up, we can actually reduce that and make sure people are paying for things as we order them. I was nervous about it, but we never get any kickback from people about it. We are going to place this request here, and we'll come back to that in a little while. Pulled is the chronological alphabetical listing of all of the items currently set aside for this customer. So you're going to see them alphabetically listed by week pulled. You're going to see some information about those items, how many he has in his file, and how many you currently have on the shelf. It's also going to tell you the date that it was pulled and offer you some ability to modify these items set aside for him. So if Django's got something in his file he doesn't want, you can use these buttons to remove that item from his account, and that will reduce the inventory in his pulls and increase the shelf quantity. Right here, this green button will just remove it and mark it as a shop action. Like maybe I auto-subbed you to a book and you didn't want it. Totally cool. This red one does the exact same thing, but CSA will remember it as a customer cancellation rather than a shop cancellation. So at any given time, you can check the rate at which people are kicking things back. And if they are kicking things back that they've special ordered often, it's usually just because they don't fully understand the system for ordering things. So this just allows you to have a little bit more tracking in terms of the conversations you need to have about potential lost income. These two buttons do the same thing. They will remove that item from the pull in that defined way. It will also assume that they don't want any more of it. So it will turn off the subscription for that series. And then finally, if they do want that item but just don't want any more of it, you can turn off the subscription right here. All of these items have check boxes, so you can do some bulk actions with them. You can pick and choose which ones you load into the transaction, or bulk action, remove a bunch from a file, etc. Lots of control over those. Oh, wow. Django, are you reading through Dungeon Crawler Carl?
Grabbed them for my friend for her.
Okay.
Yeah, the library was out, and I was like, "Oh, that's a birthday present I can do."
The transactions tab is just your way to get at all of the transactions that this person has been assigned to. It lets you know when that happened, what kind of transaction it was, which of your employees rang it up, how many items there were, what the total amount was, and then obviously they're all links as well, so you can go investigate them if you want. Also, you can see a historical dollar amount that this customer has spent in your store up until this point, so that could be kind of useful. Django, you take a lot of work, and I've only made $189 off of you. Purchased is a historical listing of all the items that person has purchased. Rewards and credits work together, and basically credits can be accumulated or put on a person's account for a variety of reasons. It could be part of a rewards program, which you can set up over here, which is buy X number of an item in a category and receive a credit for the average price of that. Or you can notice that a family is reading Calvin and Hobbes at a restaurant next to you and tell them that you just added some credit onto their account to go pick up a Calvin and Hobbes book from your store. Credits are also visible on a person's account if you have done a prepayment for them. Prepayments, kind of cool, are really just a specific credit gift certificate tied to a specific person, tied to a specific item. And anytime that that item is canceled or it's not able to make that connection, you can disconnect it and make it a generic credit on their account. Reviews, reviews. Portal, this is what Django will show you to jump out. This is how you invite somebody to have access to the customer-facing side. The last thing besides settings in a person's account that's worth showing is the buying tab. So do you buy mini collections at your store or acquire back issues through buying from people?
Not often, sometimes.
Well, if you were real excited about wanting to do that, this allows a real easy way to kind of add collections that people are trying to sell you, tie them to an account, and allow you to kind of go through and make offers on collections by adding the items to a potential collection with what you would price it at. And it can offer a cash and credit amount for that. But more than anything, it allows you to do the important thing of like making an evaluation on whether or not you want to pay that much for a collection, and then pass it off to your staff, and they can do the like minutia of pricing it and putting in inventory and whatnot. But we're going to jump into settings because that's, the thing that gets me one step closer to a different shirt. There's some sub tabs within here, but the cool things to mention are, you remember when Penguin started distributing, they were sending out damaged books and they didn't really have an infrastructure built yet for replacing damages. So what we did was we took a poll for all of our customers and asked how important condition is to them. And I think we were both surprised by how many people were like, I'm going to roll that up and put it in my pocket on my way out. So not important. And then we obviously have some customers who are like, I only want it if it's a 9.8. You can report how important condition is to them on their accounts here. That ties into the pull sheets as you're pulling your books each week. That can be visually represented. So you can make sure if you do have a fixed amount of nice ones or vice versa, those can go to the people who will really prefer or not prefer them. This is where a person can opt in and out of their auto subs. They can also distinguish their bags and board preferences. Cool thing about that is if they always like resealable Silver Age bags and boards, if you start a transaction for them, it will know to automatically add one of their preferred bag and board type for each comic periodical on the transaction. Discount method, if you want to make sure your employee or your customers are rewarded for subscribing to things, you can have discounts for items coming out of their polls. CSA knows how to track whether or not an item is coming from a customer's polls or being purchased off the shelf. And the origin of that sale is visible from your ordering module. So as you're placing your orders, you can see how many copies of an item you're selling off of the shelf versus from polls, which can help inform how many shelf copies you want to be ordering. We'll show you that later on, don't worry. The last real important thing is this. These are the delinquency parameters I mentioned earlier. So you are able to distinguish for your customers a maximum poll value and a delinquent after period of days. What this means is if Django is always coming into my store, but only like twice a year, but he's been doing it for 20 years, I can make his maximum pull value 900. When he gets to $900 of product set aside for him, it throws up a little flag to us to be like, hey, this guy has reached his parameter. It doesn't prevent him from getting more things, but it throws a flag up for you to do whatever you prefer to do in your store. Same is true for the delinquency time period. So if he hadn't been in 200 days, it would say like, hey, we haven't seen Django past his time. When you start using CSA, if that's what you choose, you get to pick a default amount. So when you create a new contact, it just defaults to, for us in our store, it's a maximum pull of $50 and delinquent after 30 days. All totally customizable. That's kind of the meat of it, of the contact side. But this is how we like to start, just to give you a framework for how we think about the data associated to a customer. Django's going to show you what a transaction looks like, and then how we organize the information about items. And then from there, we get to have some real fun and start seeing how that all integrates together. But do you have any questions about that contact information?
No, seems pretty clear.
Oh, I'm going to go change my shirt. You're my guy.
All right. While Jeff changes his shirt, we'll look at what happens when you want to ring somebody up here. Okay, so this is the same person we were looking at. We can either start a new transaction for them here, or we can start a new transaction from everything they have in their polls, if you're tracking that reliably. If somebody just walks in off the street, you can also just start an anonymous transaction for them up here. but this one's the most fun. So you can see there's 48 items and $544 worth of stuff in there. It's going to ask for my PIN so that we know who did the ringing, and it's going to load into the system. It's going to load this transaction for us. I'm going to use our beta because we're getting ready to release a super cool, fast, extra featured thing here. You can see that because this guy wants bags and boards with every transaction, we've automatically added those for him. We've got the discounts have already been done here. So he's got discounts on all of these things based on his discount rules. You can see that something's coming from his polls right here. And you can turn off on or off subscriptions from this page. So you don't have to stop everything you're doing and make a note or try to remember it and forget about it when by the time you're done ringing them up. You don't have to use that button to add this. You could also just scan all the books in, and if it's in their polls, it's going to assume that you've taken it out of their file to sell it to them. There are a few other ways that you can get items into a transaction. Over here, we've got these quick links. So we can add let's add a Pokemon single here. That adds a new item up here. Pokemon singles are a little bit special. They can be priced on the fly. So this one doesn't have a solid price. It assumes it's a quarter because most of them are in our store. But if it's $50, we can just change it right there. We can also search for an item. We don't have barcode scanners at home, so I'm just going to type Watchman TP. Now, if that was like an actual barcode, it would know exactly what we were trying to add, and it would just throw it straight in there. But because Watchman TP has multiple results, it's going to give us some choices here. If I had searched, let's try Watchman Compact. That happens way faster. You don't have to make any choices. That's like scanning a barcode because there's only one result. You can also add a custom item. So if somebody brings up a dirty action figure, you need to learn how to type and talk at the same time, I think. So they bring up a dirty action figure. We're going to put it in the toy category here, and we're going to sell it for $5. At this point, we can say add it to the catalog so that the next time somebody brings up a dirty action figure, we've already got the item built and we can just search for it rather than having to make a custom one. Or you can just add it as a one-time thing. If you want, you can also add back issues. I know you guys don't track them real close right now, but I'll show you how that works. If we wanted to sell, what's something good? X-Men 26. I think we just got one of those in the other day. So this is going to show us all of the X-Men books that are number 26. We can either sell one of the ones that we have in stock that we've already tracked and have graded and priced and everything. Or if we're pricing it right out of the box for somebody and we haven't got it in inventory yet, we can sell it on the fly right here. So I'm just going to add this one real quick. That's already added. You can keep scrolling and add more of them if you want, but that's been added right here. You can also sell store credit. I don't know. Do you guys do a lot of games?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like some stores will do store credit for prizes or whatever. So you can create a store credit and sell it to a customer, which is basically a gift certificate that lives on their account. So they don't have to carry it around with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also sell gift certificates through here if you want. All pretty straightforward. If there's something you don't have in stock, like this Watchmen new edition, you can do a prepayment for it, which basically just lets you decide on the order parameters right here. And when you lock the transaction, it creates a store credit that's tied to this customer for this item. So you get prompted to order it. And then when it comes in, you're prompted to save it for them. And then when they buy it, you get the chance to redeem that store credit that they've already paid for. So pretty straightforward there. In your situation, like if you jumped over today and didn't want to deal with, managing a whole catalog of products and stuff, you could just create a quick link over here for your new comics and old comics, right? And then each time you want to ring it up, you just click the button to do it. You could also create a barcode for it.
Okay, yeah, barcode. That's what I was going to ask.
Yep. And then down here, we've got, you can add bulk discounts, including a way to force everything to a specific price. So if you're like, hey, I'll give you those for $1 if you buy 30 of them, you don't have to change 30 things to $1. You can do it in bulk. Way down here, we can do a variety of tenders. So credit card, cash, whatever. If you do a gift certificate that's been rung through this system, it will ask you to scan the gift certificate number. If you have old gift certificates that you didn't migrate over, because that can be really difficult, you can use a legacy gift certificate. It still tracks it as a gift certificate. It just doesn't validate it because it doesn't know for sure how much is left on something. And then if you want to do cash down here, it's doing its best guess for the denomination somebody might give you. So the total is 467.87. They might give you $470, and it'll do all that math for you real quick. You can split tenders. You can use any credit card machine you want. You just punch in the numbers and take the money like that. And you can also, when you remove items from a transaction, when you click the button, it will put it back where it was. Or if you want to remove it from their polls as well, you can remove it as a store action or a customer action, kind of like you could in their account. And then another cool thing that we built, we had this guy who used to come in all the time and try to buy his limit of hot books on Wednesday morning. And then he would come in a day later on a different staff shift, and he would try to buy his limit of hot books again. And so we just track if you've already bought something, and we don't stop you. We just tell the person ringing you up, hey, they've already bought more than the limit that we've set for this item. And that customer or that employee can have a conversation with them if they want. It also has helped us with our buddy who can't remember if he bought the book last week. We do a lot less returns for James now.
We have a couple of those.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's comics, man. Um, that's pretty much it. You can suspend a transaction or void a transaction. Once you lock it, it adjusts your inventory. There's ways to pull profit reports if you're using CSA Plus, which is just like an extension that we have. Lots of little bells and whistles, but that's kind of the basics. Do you have any transaction questions?
Compatible with receipt printers, register polls, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's oh, there goes my desk.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, it works with to print a receipt. It basically just prints out or preps a PDF. So you just send that PDF to your receipt printer. The receipt printer itself is what controls your drawer. So you configure that. We've brought in 120 some shops, and I think 3 or 4 of them had to get a new receipt printer. I'm pretty sure that if they had been willing to put another 17 hours into printer settings, they probably could have made it work. But,
Yeah, I've been there too.
yeah. And then barcode scanner. We've got one we recommend, but those are pretty plug and play. They're just like goofy keyboards with only one button, right?
Okay. Jumping a little bit out of the transaction here, but while we're on the topic of hardware, what about inventory scanners? We have a Cipher Lab one that we've been using with QuickBooks. Everything, and then it uploads it.
I've never used one of those, but if it's got the ability to output a CSV that is either every barcode that you scanned or barcode and quantity combined, you can do inventory using that file.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, inventory just looks at a CSV.
Yeah, look at a CSV. It matches on barcode, and then it tells you, hey, I didn't recognize these barcodes. You get to dig as hard as you feel like. And then it'll say, hey, I thought you had these, but you didn't scan them. So you take a spin through those, and then you hit a button and it updates it all.
Alrighty.
Yeah. I'm jealous of those barcode scanners all of a sudden.
They're nice, but man, they chew through batteries. They're expensive.
Yeah. We usually just bring we put a laptop on a cart, and we probably have 7 or 8 just boring barcode scanners and just send staff around doing that.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to void this so that we don't confuse our staff too much at the end of the night. And let's jump into an item here. I feel like I always choose poorly, Jeff, but I'm gonna go with this Batman book here, number 19. So similar to contacts, items just have a ton of information that they've got to store. We tend to leverage almost every single thing that we can bring in. So if a distributor offers it, or if we feel like we need to enter it, we try to find a good use for it for reporting or different interactions within the system. Over here, we've got the image that's grabbed from Lunar or Penguin automatically. You can manage your own images either with uploads or image URLs. if you're pulling from other distributors or whatever. You got really basic information. You got your title up here. These icons are just like Shopify and customer facing portal notifications. You got your creative team over here. I found one the other day that had like 40 artists listed, and I realized we need to reformat that when that happens. Diamond didn't used to be able to support that. Down here, it's really basic, like metadata, so category, publisher, et cetera, et cetera. There's a link out to eBay that appears on a lot of items. It's not super useful on just a boring old item here, but when you're doing your Tuesday check-in, having that leg up to jumping out to eBay to find your ratio variant prices can be pretty handy.
Mhm.
Down here, this is your pricing and inventory management stuff. We've got ours configured to require a PIN anytime these things get changed so that you've got a little bit of accountability and you don't have to send a text to the group chat to find out who changed the price on a thing because they were confused. This on the fly button is like that Pokemon card that we talked about where you choose your price. The quantity that you have in stock minus what you have in pulls minus what you have in overstock equals what you have on the shelf. So that's a pretty stable number. If your on shelf quantity doesn't match, something's goofy in here or it got stolen, right?
Mhm.
Ever sold is pretty self-explanatory. Ever received, same thing. Minimum point is what you guys talked about a little bit earlier. And then infinite quantity basically just suppresses warnings that you've sold more than you have. Um, on a transaction, if you sell more copies than you have and you dip into negative numbers, you can create a project for staff to go in and figure out why that happened. So it's kind of a self-healing inventory management thing there, and this will suppress that from happening. The specs over here, this is just really kind of basic information, description, title, barcodes, ship dates, and stuff like that. A couple of interesting things we have here. This is the purchase limit, which is what we talked about where it was flashing red if somebody had already bought the thing before. So you can set that on an item level. You can also have a shelf par. So if you've got a big overstock warehouse and you always want 10 copies of this on the shelf and only one copy of that, kind of helps manage that for you. And then the pop-up text, I went out of town for a little while and I came back one time and there was an X-Men comic that was super hot, but we wanted to sell it for cover price to our customers, but we kind of wanted to mess with speculators a little bit. So somebody had put a note on the shelf that said the first one's cover price, the next one's $15. And I hadn't seen that because I was out of town. So when I scanned the item, it popped up in front of me and said, "Hey, the first one's cover price, the next one's $15." And I read it out loud to the customer. He's like, "Oh yeah, I saw the sign over there." So that's like a way to communicate in the moment that you're doing the transaction. We also use it to remind ourselves to grab the book plates that come with some of those image hardcovers because they don't put sticky on the back of those anymore. Um, Distributors. So this was really easy back when we only had Diamond. Everything was gotten from Diamond, and you only really needed one. But now you get them from anybody you want. So we have a separate distributor record for each one. They might have different returnable dates. They all have different stock codes. They might be discontinued at one distributor and not another. You might get different discounts. So this just kind of helps you manage that. Super easy to add more distribution channels there, and you don't have to have a distribution set up in order to order something, but it helps you make decisions a lot easier. Orders is every time this has been ordered and kind of the status. You can also place a quick order from this interface. And then invoices and costs. This is every time you've checked the item in and what the status was there. It'll also track your cost based on check-ins. Your series is Absolute Batman has 20 issues. So here's a whole bunch of comics for Absolute Batman. So you could take a spin through this and look at what you have on the shelf if you want to find a long run for somebody, or if you're creating bundles of an item. You can also subscribe people from this page and edit the printing number and just group things in a helpful way. Holds is everybody who is subscribed or who has ever been subscribed. And then requests is everybody who has had a special order placed and the status of that special order. So these have all come in. Pulled is everybody who has or has had this set aside for them, and it tells you why it's not set aside for them anymore if it's gone. Transactions is really similar to the contact transactions that Jeff showed you, with the exception that this one shows you if it came from polls or not, and how many of this specific item were on a transaction. FOC chart. This was something that a user asked us to put in. I had a hard time wrapping my brain around why they would want it in this place on the site, but it was super easy to add, so we threw it in there. Jeff will go through this a little bit closer when you guys are talking about orders, but it's just kind of historical sales data over previous issues for that.
It's also a brilliant advertising moment for us to be able to say, if you want something, we'll put it in there. You know, like we don't even need to fully understand. That's the kind of connection you get with Comic Shop Assistant.
Wow. Did you take business pills while you're changing shirts?
Buddy, I feel a lot lighter with this thin shirt on. I don't know why I was wearing a thick shirt like that, but I also got my fan going the wrong way, but it's working.
I have to cover up my AC register down here so my feet don't get too cold.
Oh, look at this guy just boasting. Oh man, I have AC in one room of my house starting today.
This adjustments tab is every time something meaningful gets changed on the item. So it's a lot of in stock quantities get changed, title gets changed, price gets changed, stuff like that. We track it. We track who did it, just so that we can find out the answer to some of those mysteries of your comic store.
Yep.
Bundles. So this, if you think of bundles as like a box of magic cards, and the box contains 36 packs. So this would be a way for you to say, this is a box of magic. It contains 36 packs. And then with one button, you can reduce your box count and increase your pack count, right?
Very nice.
And you can nest that. So you could potentially have a case full of boxes, full of packs, full of singles, if you really felt like tracking things that close. Reviews, Jeff talked about that a little bit. It's just the reviews that we've done in store for this book. This number can push out to Shopify to give a staff review. And if there's something that is a high enough score, we gather it on Shopify to say like, hey, this is Jeff's picks. Just kind of maintain that.
Could you scroll down a little bit and show me who is messing up the average rating of that book? Jake.
Jake.
Cool.
It's a mystery. That guy won't give more than an 8 in most cases. Okay, so tags are super cool and super boring, but we're getting these fed to us from our distributors. They sometimes give them to us clean. They sometimes don't give them to us clean. I'm on the steering committee of the Comet Standard, which is an attempt to get all the distributors to kind of give us unified data in similar formats when we receive them, so that we don't get Snyder Scott from them and Scott Snyder from somebody else. We're making really good headway on that. And this is kind of setting the table for this dream that we have of being able to subscribe people to rules instead of a series. So you could say this person wants every Daniel Warren Johnson cover on an X-Men comic that costs less than $30. And then you get prompted to order it. And when it comes in, you get prompted to set it aside for them. To be clear, we can't do that yet because we're still getting Brian Michael Bendis and Daniel Warren Johnson's names all in every configuration you can imagine. But that's kind of where we're headed with this. It also gives you the opportunity to have things like shelf locations. So when we do inventory, we scan things by shelf. And then when we load it into the inventory, we also apply a tag so that if we can't find a book, we know where it can live. Can also help new employees figure out where to reshelf things when you're checking in an order.
And I assume with inventory, it doesn't require a pause of the system. You can still use it. You can still use the system to transact business while you're running inventory elsewhere.
You can. The downside is that that's kind of a moving target. So if you've scanned a shelf and then somebody buys something off that shelf, then you've got something that doesn't make sense anymore. We always try to do it after hours, and we've built the inventory system in a way that lets you do it by category. So you don't have to scan every single item in the store. You just have to scan all the board games or all the trade paperbacks.
But you'd have to manually account for anything sold during that. You don't have the ability to say we are starting an inventory. Like in QuickBooks, you can say we're starting an inventory, and then when you finish it, it's like, all right, these things that were sold during that inventory time are then adjusted.
Go look at those. No, because like it's all in the timing, right? We're not tracking the moment a thing was scanned at
Okay.
that. So if you're loading it in every 5 minutes, but somebody grabs something 4 minutes and rings out, then what?
Yeah.
You could do it while you're open if you felt like going through everything that sold that day that was relevant and double checking that inventory. Um, I wouldn't recommend it. That would break my brain. But if that's something that you've got the constitution for, you probably come up with a process for it.
And we do it similar to the way you have it set up by sections and everything. But oftentimes when we're slow at night, that's a good time to have an employee go and scan everything in a section.
Yeah, yeah. And as long as it's not an active section, you could be adjusting those. The other reason we do it by category is that lets you find things that aren't there, in addition to things that are there.
Mhm.
Right. So if you just scan the horror shelf, it's hard to say for sure that you don't have something double merged or whatever. So you didn't scan a thing. Do you still have it on another shelf?
Yeah.
It just kind of turns it into kind of a mystery. You can totally do like little bite-sized inventory adjustments. Um, I would just say for like an annual inventory that might get a little shaky.
Yeah.
We've got a consignment module. That's basically just what did you get from them? What have you sold? How much do you owe them? We also have a customer-facing portal that we can look at a little bit later in the demo. It's just a way for you to let your customers subscribe and unsubscribe from things online. And then the web, this is right now mostly integrating with our Shopify plugin. The only interesting thing here really is that you can have a different price online than what you have in store. So we use that to sort of throttle hot comics and give them to the people that come into our store and that we like, rather than somebody who found us on Google. GCD data is a way to kind of link this up with the Grand Comic Book database. That's what our whole back issue infrastructure runs on. It can do things like pull an image over, grab creators and stuff for an item that isn't being housed in the back issue section. And then we've got some publisher tools. We're just barely in the infancy of this, but we have a publisher or two that have been uploading like PDFs or videos that you can use, and they show up here on the item, or they'll also show up on an FOC so that you can, get a preview of the comic while you're sitting there, or see if you'll be able to market it with a video on a screen or whatever. So that's items. That's an exhaustive list of item features. Do you have any questions about them?
No, looks like just about everything I expect there.
Cool. Good. Jeffrey.
Django, I like this guy a lot. He seems pretty dang smart. Time for us to do our little bit of orange slices and Capri Suns now that it's halftime. My mom got those for everybody. It was her time in the parent rotation.
Okay, give me just a second. Let me go grab a drink then.
Yeah.
Capri Sun it is.
Oh, I went to Stemma yesterday. Well, I read my comic. I went to this grilled cheese place that was there, and they had Capri Suns for purchase. Yeah, dude.
Right.
I have the apple pie a la mode Flavor Town ones in my fridge right now. Waterloo boys. Love it. All day in our correspondences and me corresponding with Django today, I've been thinking about, there was a little mini series that came out called Little Batman. Did you read that, Cody?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love you. My favorite thing about that was Timothy Business, which is like Damien's alter ego in Little Batman. He created this idea called Timothy Business, and he would like sneak into places to be a businessman. And that's how I feel every time we're doing a business thing like this. I feel like a small child putting on a fake mustache and a toupee that is working better than Django's. No, burn.
Timothy, mean guy.
Yeah, Timothy Mean Guy. I was watching Ricky Gervais videos before this started, so
It's all making sense.
it's all going together. And then I went into my Harrison Ford videos, which I sent you. Django's a big Indiana Jones fan.
Found out there's French Indiana Jones We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Pinball machine.
Yeah. Oh, dude. So his second favorite thing in the world is Indiana Jones. His first favorite thing is Shadow. So we have his Shadow pinball machine in our shop.
Yeah.
I-
You gotta
so-
do bucket list.
It's got the cool gun you shoot the ball out of.
Mhm.
The indie one does too, right?
It has a gun?
Oh yeah, I've hit my hip on that many times.
Oh.
Yeah.
The act of turning on the machines every morning makes me feel like a professional. You remember the home screen? Like an old friend from yesteryear. What I can do is hit the orders tab here and take a look at the ordering process. I went through my Lunar FOC this morning, but I got a lot of rust on the joints today, so I haven't done my Penguin yet. Um, what I'm going to start by showing you is just what it would look like to build an empty open reorder. So I can hit this create order button. It's going to add an order into here. Here's a historical listing of all of our orders. If you have locked it and sent it to the distributor, you can lock it and it'll be registered as sent, and it will know how many of the items have been received and yet to be received. All of these red dots are checklist items that you can have a customizable checklist on your orders to make sure certain things are getting done. And what I'm seeing is that I don't think our employees use them. But that's fine. That's fine.
Not at all.
Yeah, look at all these fours here. But I'm going to create an order. Right here, it's going to ask me to define which distributor, because we are working on an infrastructure for orders where you kind of build orders for multi-distributors at once by looking at sales reports or minimum points and tell them to attach orders. But right now, before that thing is fully rolled out, we're doing kind of one-to-one orders. So I'm going to define which order I want to build my distributor with. So Lunar, there's 3 different types of orders. Custom is pretty much any replenishment or general restock order. FOC is what you would choose if you're loading in your FOC each week. And then pre-order is your initial order data, which none of us do initial orders for the most part anymore, but we still like to load those into our system because that way you have accurate series information and title information for books that are being solicited. But I'm going to create this custom order and hit create order here and take a sip of this. Water. Right here, it splashed. Oh, damn it. I'm so embarrassed. I took a sip and it splashed up. Django, did you see the splash happen?
It was really good, buddy.
Okay, I didn't mean for it to happen, but I did need to wet the whistle. Okay, so this is an empty order that CSA knows is headed for Lunar distribution. It's in prep status because we haven't locked it yet, and it has a numerical ID that's automatically created when the order is created. Here is that checklist. You can see none of those things have been done yet because we just opened it, and you've got a couple buttons right here. So you can add things to your order in just the good old chestnut sort of way by searching up items here or with a barcode scanner. If we search Absolute Watchmen, you can see some various printings of Absolute Watchmen. You can see the deactivated old printings of it. There's a really cool way that CSA detects multiple printings of items across inventory. So that can be really helpful. But right here, we know that this 2023 edition is the one that we still want to be ordering and getting. And right here, you can see some stock and sales inventory numbers about the book right here. You can see that we have one on our shelf. We have one in overstock, a total stock of 2. But if I wanted to add more to the order, I could do that right here. Again, that's the good old classic way of searching things up. You can also hit this button to consult all of the requests that have been placed and have not yet been attached to an order. So like when we placed that request for Absolute Jeff Johns Superman earlier, you'd find that listed in this list of requests right here. You'll notice some color coding in the backgrounds. This is because within CSA, we built a thing called preferred distribution, which I usually would have talked about earlier. It's your way as a store to define on a publisher level which distributor you prefer to get your things from. So for us, if an item is associated with the DC publisher or the Image publisher, we prefer to get it from Lunar. Unless it's a DC paperback, we'll occasionally get those from Penguin. But you're seeing some color coding right here. This is the list of items people are asking for that have not yet been ordered. I can go through here and add the ones that have a note to be ordered from Lunar or with this green background right here. If I know that somebody's asking for it and I would maybe want to get a copy for my shelf, I can also add a quantity right there. It will add quantities of that item to the order for the shelf. And it lets you know which customer placed that request right here, as well as which of your employees did it and whether it was prepaid or not. So I always just go through here and build my order first from consulting the requests that we need to get into the store in a timely manner so we don't disappoint anybody. We're going to go down to the very bottom because that is where you'll see the absolute Jeff Johns request for Django Newman. We'll add that right there, not 10, just the one. And I'm going to move my head so I can press my button. Come on, Zoom heads, move. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's starting to get hot again, boys. Um, just a second, everybody. Sorry, I tried to change my thing. I got Zoom heads in the way.
My favorite part is that nobody else can see the Zoom heads.
Yeah, nobody can see the Zoom heads. Is this thing appropriately sharing screen again?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow, it really got messed up. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to close that. You'll see the number of requests get reduced right here. I can also, and my favorite way to be building an order at this point is by consulting the items that I've sold by date. I can see that right here. This button will generate a report that is very similar to the one on the home screen. It shows you all of the items you've sold. However, it defaults to the category books and it defaults to the date range of the last week. So what it's doing is showing you a list of all the books that sold in the last week. And then it shuffles to the top of that list all of the items with a green background that CSA knows you prefer to get from this distributor. So you can scroll through here and see a variety of them. If you have items that are already on order and haven't been received yet, you're seeing that little bubble right here let you know that you have copies of this on order. It tells you the quantity, where you're ordering it from. You can link out to that order right here. But what I particularly like is this stuff up here. It gives you a whole bunch of information about the rate of sales that you've got for these books. So right here, Absolute Batman Volume 2, it tells me the date that this first got in stock. But it also tells me the most recent date that it was received. And it tells you how many you received at that time. And then it tells you how many in total you've sold. It's one thing to know that you've sold 96. It's again additional to know you got 10 at the last time. All of that is part of a puzzle that you're solving when you're placing orders. It also shows you the date of the 3 most recent sales and how many were sold on each of those days. So again, it's one thing to know you have sold total of 96. It's a different thing to see that you sell a copy like every 2 days. It also lets you know that you have some on the shelf and how many there are right there. Lets you know if you've got any on overstock. Here is the representation for the copies that are on order right here. If you have any in customers' polls, and then your total in-stock amount. We are redoing our minimum points in our store, so I've stopped adding minimum points to books, and we're going to do a kind of big update of all of them. But if you had minimum points on items, you'd see it right here. I'm sure that we have some items that have minimum points right here. You can see Absolute Green Lantern Volume 2 has a minimum point of 1. It shows me that I have 4 copies on my shelf, but it's on this list because I've sold 1 in the last week. So it's suggesting that I order 0 because my minimum points have already been met. However, that is an idea that is already familiar to you. So
you have one question about that. With the, let's see, lost it.
Oh, just a second. Did I go away?
No, I just forgot what I was going to say there. I was looking at minimum points and I guess, oh yes. Can these be changed by CSV easily? Say I want to go in and change minimum order points for hundreds of trade paperbacks. Can that be exported CSV, changed, and then put back in without breaking everything?
Not quite like that, but we do have bulk edits. Wow, Jeff, you're marking up the page.
Dude, my faces went away, and I did all of that without being able to see the faces, which I usually do, but I'm fixing it now. We're getting back on track, everybody. Django, answer the question, please.
So from our items page, you can search up a set of items and bulk edit things like minimum point or price, or like most of these fields can be bulk edited. We do have a way for you to search by barcode, so you can bring up a set of 250 barcodes or whatever and bulk edit those. Honestly, the reason we haven't done it by CSV is that I don't trust most users to create a clean CSV where barcodes are concerned.
Absolutely, understand.
Haven't built that tool yet. But there are big bulk tools because I hate clicking things twice when I could have clicked them once.
Okay.
I feel like Cody can vibe with that type of efficiency. if I'm honest. I'm picking up some similarities between all of us, except for me. I'm clearly the least professional of the three of us. We got a checklist right here. If you've added your request, you can do that. Clearly, our employees aren't doing it all the time. You'll see the request number has reduced. Again, this is that sold item by date. You could be adding quantities to the order over here. And there is also just this button right here, which allows you to gather all items. And it does some filtering of publishers that you've identified as being preferred from the distributor you're working with, but it would gather all the items that are below their minimum points. I don't want to punish you with making you wait for several minutes while it chugs through gathering all of the items that are below minimum points in our store. We just
And
blew out a ton of inventory.
you can do that by distributor. Pull up the distributor and say, pull up the minimum order points for this distributor.
Yeah, I'm going to click this, or actually within order actions, you can see gather minimum points. We've defined right here which ones we prefer for this distributor. So yeah, you're able to assign them to a preferred distributor, and then when you gather the minimum points, it would be from within this order you've created for that distributor. So it's going to filter by the ones that it knows are that distributor. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
inside the order where you've already
Yep.
selected your distributor.
Yeah. And Django and I did on Wednesday kind of have a meeting to work on moving forward the order where you're kind of looking at all of your sales and inventory and assigning items to a distributor's order where you can kind of be creating or having multiple going at once. That I think is an instance of where gathering all of your minimum points would be super useful, because from that screen you could be then assigning them to different distributors without needing to jump between orders to do it.
Mhm.
Um, it's a kind of self-evident thing. It's orders, you create them, and you ask for things to come in. Where it gets a little bit more cool and nuanced is the interfaces we've built for things like initial orders and FOCs. So we're going to jump into the Lunar FOC that I did this morning. And what this is going to do is show you all the items that were on that data form we brought in. There's a couple different viewpoints you can use for these orders. I always default to the detailed view. There's a consolidated view we'll show you that has some protective flags so you don't mess up your life the ways I have. But in this detailed view, you can get a lot of information about the items. So again, you could link out to just the items page right here. You're getting tags for the creators. You're seeing the variant covers that are also associated with this issue. They're located just below it. And what's a good item to check out while we go through here? Let's look at Megalith because it's on this first page. So Megalith, number 1, second printing. I don't really want to use this one, but here we are. So you can see some various information about the item right here. Specifically, what I want to show you on this is that there is sales history for any item and the previous items in that item series, that issued series. So right here, we're looking at the second print of Megalith. We can see that 1 month ago, the first print came in. It's showing us how many we ordered and how many we received. And then it's showing us how many were claimed. It looks like we had 4 claimed. Claimed is a word that we use because everybody picks up their comics at different rates. So it's actually a calculation. It is how many we've sold plus how many are currently in subscribers' files. Because if they're in a subscriber's file, you're under the assumption that they're going to buy it. That way you can get a rough idea of how many are being claimed as you're ordering your next issue. So right here, we'd ordered 12, 4 were claimed. It's telling you how many were sold from various locations. So right here, it's telling me that I sold 2 off the shelf. I can hover over that and see the names of the customers that bought it off the shelf. I can see who ordered it and has it from their poll, and if anybody ordered it from the internet right here using our Shopify integration. And then it'll give you a little bit of information about the copies that you still have in your store. So if you had any in people's polls, we currently have 8 in stock on the shelf. Right here again is a bunch of the covers, but I want to jump to a thing that's got subscribers. Bad idea was a bad idea, but they're occupying most of this first page, so.
Surprise!
Surprise! Okay, right here, Clayface, old DC superheroes, thank you. Right here, you can see a lot of cool stuff about ordering this item. So it's a number 1. I did do the auto sub here. There's a link for you to access the auto subs right here within the order. You can also do it from an items page. You can consult a variety of lists to create these subscriptions. So you could look up different series like Batman Post Rebirth, which is what we named that series. And If I click this, it shows me that I had 44 people subscribed to this Batman series. I can click that. It's showing me all the people that were subscribed to that, and allows me to click and unclick people that I would want to move over to this subscription. If they are already subscribed, it excludes them from it. If they have auto sub set to not being auto subbed, it excludes them from it. And then it will obviously check the boxes for anybody that you do want, and then you can just hit a button and it duplicates all those people onto that series. Obviously, it tracks all that stuff for you so you know, or at least the customer knows. CSA knows that this is a DC comic and we are in a lunar order. So you're seeing some color coding here. This has a green background. Currently, I don't have any on order because post initial order world we're in. I can see that I have 16 subscribers for this series right here. I can hover over that and see the number of subscribers and who they are. I can see if anybody has special orders for this item right here. This is anybody asking for this item outside of a subscription. And that gives me a total pull value right here of 17. I'm able to define a shelf target number. I usually do that after a first or second issue has come out, but it's my ability to define the number of copies I want of this book on the shelf after I finish all my pulls. So it remembers that between issues. So when number 2 comes through, if I had said that I always want 6 copies on my shelf, regardless of how my subscriptions and requests fluctuate, this suggested number here will incorporate that desired shelf target number when it coaches me through how many copies I want to order. I don't need it to coach me through. I've been doing it forever, but it could. Right here, it's saying 17. So that's the sum of my holds and my requests. I haven't designated a shelf target number. So I'm ordering 32 copies right here. Again, here are the alternate covers for it or the link out to the bundle. If these items were available on multiple FOCs, you'd see them listed right here. And then like costing information right here, pretty good if you like getting into the nitty gritty dirty stuff. You can change your price for it here, specifically useful for your ratio variance. There's a lot of additional tools for bringing in your FOCs on here. And again, like Django said, being able to jump out to eBay to see what pre-orders for variants are doing. If you want to pre-sell variants, we don't. But yeah, so a lot of tools there to be helping you get your orders finished, never over order or under order. We're going to go to the list view and talk about my failures. Let's take a sip. Oh, it's going to splash my face again.
Get it. Water failure.
Once upon a time, I was early in my FOC ordering days, and Dynamite was making a Mighty Mouse book. Now, I think you and I have a common feeling about Mighty Mouse. We need more of it in the world. So I was like, do I get 0? No, I got to get at least 1. Maybe I'm going to get 10. I decided on 10 because he's got that yellow shirt and it was an Alex Ross cover. A month later, that order came in. I'm opening up the box from Diamond and I count it. And sure enough, there's 100 Mighty Mouse #1s in there, which is more Mighty Mouse than the entire continental United States ordered combined. I was the Baron of Mighty Mouse #1. I was sure that they messed up my order, but sure enough, I looked on the website and I had fat fingered it and accidentally ordered 100. We've got them all in a box and they're gaining interest and value right now.
We ended up with 40 copies of Frostbite #4 instead of 4 copies. So
listen, Frostbite Volume 4 was where it finally hit its stride. So I'm with you. I get it. That's just thinking ahead.
When the guy lost his hat.
Yeah, exactly. So you know and you understand, you're wearing that failure proudly. I love it. Thank you. Another time, we had somebody subscribed to all the cover price variants of Red Sonja. So if it was the cover price, they wanted it. It was A through G, and then it was Dynamite. So there was a billion covers. There was like 1 in 7s and glass covers. The glass cover was cover Z. Everything was great for a number of months. But then Dynamite pulled a Dynamite and reduced the number of covers they were making for it. Cover G, which was the Linsner cover, became the $100 glass cover. And our system was telling us we had somebody subscribe to it, so we ordered it. That guy who didn't want to spend more than $4 on a comic was certainly not going to pay $100 for the glass cover. We did find a home for it. But
really cool.
Yeah. So like bearing those failures in mind, we built some flags and tools to help people not make the same mistakes I have. So from this list view, which is a consolidated view, you can hit show under-ordered items. That's the easiest error you can catch, which is anytime your quantity of order is less than the suggested number that it's got, the pull value. These ones make sense because I've ordered them from Penguin instead. It indicates that right here and lets me know how many I have on order. But this is telling me that I have people asking for it and I'm not ordering enough to fill them. Obviously, Catwoman makes sense as well because I ordered bundles of it. And we're working right now on a way for when you order bundles to have that quantity represented over here as on order so it's not flagging this error. But for the sake of this demo, I've got 77 and then 2 bundles coming. So that's below my 88. Yeah, so you can catch some errors right there. But the real good stuff is this show expensive items ordered. This is going to consolidate my entire order down to the items where the quantity that I'm asking for times the unit price exceeds a price threshold that you get to set up when you're installing CSA. For us, it's 25 bucks. It's low. And so this list shows me everything where my total order cost exceeds that. Doesn't prevent me from doing it, but it's like, Jeff, slow down. You don't want to Mighty Mouse yourself. So it makes a yellow bubble here, and it says red note line cost. At this point, you can probably tell from our short time together that I'm a relatively neurotic, anxious person. So I finish my FOC and I go through here and I look at all these line prices and make sure I didn't accidentally Mighty Mouse myself again. So it's just a really helpful way to make sure I don't make those errors. Free Comic Book Day. Sometimes they send us single items or bundles. The EC Dynamite horror listing was listed as single items that I would order. So I was like, I'll get 50 of those copies. And then I got to this view and I looked at the line view and it was like $4,000. I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And sure enough, Diamond had just mis-solicited them and they were bundles of 50. So before committing that order of 50 bundles of 50, I caught it here. It can be very, very helpful. If you have failures that you're excited to share with folks, we would love to work on building tools to prevent other people from making those same mistakes. But we've got some here, and it's certainly eliminated the excess items coming in that, back in the old days we used to do. Lets you know your total items on order, the MSRP, and then, as you know, all of our distributors like to have their orders submitted in a slightly different format. It would be ideal if all of them could just easily take a CSV, but CSA knows the preferred format to receive orders for each distributor you could be working with. So when you create an order, it sets the default export format to be what it knows it should be. You can change that if you want. Most of them can take a CSV. Penguin, it creates a copyable text field that you copy and just paste into the cart, and then it will divide up. But CSA does all of that quietly in the background, so you don't have to think about it. Do you like ordering? How did that look?
Yeah, very nice. I like exporting things. And then
Oh, isn't it good? Yeah, exporting is the way to do it.
And import
We have
around here.
we have some CSA users who still don't trust technology enough that they'll do their order in here and get the quantities and then go onto their distributor's website and still enter the quantities. And yeah, I like exporting stuff, like you said. Oh, Django, are you ready? We're about to kind of move towards the finish line, even though we've had a delightful time here, the three of us.
I'm always ready, buddy.
He is. It's terrifying to be around.
Crouched and ready to pounce.
Ah!
All right. So invoices, they're basically the opposite of orders, right? You've asked for this thing and now you're going to get this thing. We've got a really easy way to import files from your distributors and put them into an invoice so that you can check them in. Once you basically you just download the file from your distributor, you upload it into Comic Shop Assistant. It'll say, hey, I recognize most of this stuff. I don't know what this thank you variant is. What do you want me to do with it? Do you want me to delete it like you did this promo poster, or do you want me to create a new item for it? And then you've got a couple of ways that you can go through and check things in. My favorite, and this is one that it looks like our staff has already started checking in but hasn't locked it yet. I'm going to say that we have 0 of this in right now. So my favorite way is this fast check-in mode. What we do in our store is we take all of our Lunar, all of our Penguin, we unbox them, we count them, and compare them to the paper invoices or the paper packing lists that they send us. And as long as there's nothing wrong, They're staged and alphabetical and ready to go. If there is anything that's goofy about it, if there's a damage or an overage or a shortage, we'll put a sticky note over the top barcode in the stack. And then we gather one of each and we just walk it over the computer and scan each item. And when you scan it, if there's only one search result, it assumes that you received the quantity you wanted. It assumes that none of them were damaged, and it puts the barcode scanner back up here ready to scan again. The reason we do that step is because comic publishers and comic distributors sometimes get a little bit chaotic with the barcodes, and I'd rather catch a weird barcode behind the scenes than try to figure it out in front of a customer or have somebody who doesn't understand it. An employee who's not really good at understanding what should have happened, try to figure it out in front of them. Another way you can do your scans is with our scan every item mode. And what that is like when we receive things from Penguin, we might get 3 copies of V for Vendetta in one box and 2 copies in another box. And it's kind of, those might show up over the course of 2 or 3 days. So we like to, for Penguin, just scan one of every single copy of everything that we have in there. That means that you don't have to stage them and count them before you start checking them in. You just scan them as you take them out of the box. You can do it in kind of a small area. But both of those methods work super well. We were able to take our Tuesday process from like a many houred ordeal with me and Jeff, both working from like 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. and get it down to just Jeff working until about 2. And at this point, we've passed that off and we just hang out and do tech support and stuff. We have an employee who can handle all that. When you're on an invoice, here's a good example right here. Absolute Flash number 16 here. It knows how many holds you have. So you can see everybody that wants a copy for their subscription. You can see everybody who wants a copy for their special orders. You can see a combined list. You can see how many copies you're going to put on the shelf. But you can also create a pull sheet. So we don't do it that way. I prefer to check everything in and then pull everything. When you guys do that, Cody, do you do a list of customers and the things they get, or things and the customers who get them?
Like our weekly pull sheet, or
Weekly pull sheet.
yeah, our weekly pull sheet, it's customer and then a list of their books, and then the next customer and the list of their books.
Okay, that's what we do too. So
I like it more every time I hear him say something, Django.
yeah, you do it right. There's a wrong way and a right way.
I have an Excel script that I set up where I just go at it and tell it what books came in this week, run the script, and then it spits it out.
Nice.
Yeah, so much of like the processes of our store we kind of inherited from the previous owners, but we do talk to folks all the time that are like, yeah, just the item and then the customers that get it. And I'm like, that wouldn't work in our store just by the layout and how we file things.
But they might have a rack of slots that they just throw things in.
Exactly. We're still using file cabinets that my back, abhors.
Yeah. So I just clicked the boxes next to multiple invoices here, and we're going to make a pull sheet based on those. So one of the things that was important to us when we built this was to be able to only have one pull sheet for as many distributors as we needed to check in on a Tuesday. For a while there was Lunar, Penguin, and Diamond. Now we're down to just Lunar and Penguin. But you can see here, we got the customer name, we got their phone number, we got their bag and board preferences and their condition preferences all at the top. And then under each customer, you've got the things to pull for them. It's just an alphabetical list. If there's a thing to pull for them that is just so on right here, either multiple copies or not an A cover, it gets a little noisy. It turns bold and it has this exclamation mark here. If you have something that's prepaid, it'll put a little $ there. If you have a customer who doesn't come in very often or who is delinquent, it can tell you, hey, maybe it's a good idea to give this person a call. We also prevent it from, on most printers, we prevent it from cutting off in the middle of a list. So like this list wouldn't get cut off in the middle. It would all fit on one page so that you don't have to guess who's on the next page. And then we also set it to a font size that won't hurt Jeff's wrists as bad as the old font size did, because he's a delicate bird-boned boy. You can also, so we haven't tested this in our store, but I talked to a shop that had like an assistive device that would read their pull sheets out loud. So they didn't even have to look at it. They just set it loose and it started reading it. So I've been looking forward to testing one of those in here. Um, Once you lock an invoice, it basically increases your inventory. It allocates your pulls. If you don't have enough of something for somebody, it'll ask you, who do you want to give the books to? Who do you want to short? And it gives you a lot of information about those customers when you do that. So you can see who asked for it first and who has the most stuff sitting in their file for the longest. So you can make the best decision there.
So the pull list report, can that only be printed or can that be spit out as a CSV? We like to ours. We print out 3 columns with the people in the books, and we don't like to use 50 pieces of paper. That comes down to 9 pieces of paper.
That's a good idea. No, but if you start using it, we'll make that. That's pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, we could probably just make this one fit 3 up.
Yeah, yeah.
Although that would hurt your wrists.
I don't do it anymore, thank God. But
Yeah,
I
cool.
have a lifelong arthritic problem now because of 10 years of doing it. So
John's 2 years younger. It's fine.
exactly. He's not same age.
But yes, we could make that make a CSV pretty easily for you. Yeah. Any other invoice or pull sheet questions?
No, pretty much seems to cover everything there.
Cool.
Well, I guess actually, can we see a gaming distributor? How that would look?
Yeah.
So I assume all the stuff about polls and whatever will still be there, just not really populated.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me find. I'll just search for. Here's a universal.
Now one of the reasons we're on this call is because of Universal and dealing with getting the stuff into their system. QuickBooks does not like to spit out barcodes, so I have to do a lot of work on the back end to get a report that I can upload. I assume you've got them handled at this point.
Yeah, when you export your orders, you can have it export a variety of different barcodes and SKUs. It could either be a barcode or it could be a SKU that you assign specifically to that item. And CSA doesn't really care what's in there. It just does what you told it to do, basically. Universal's been really weird about data, and they were actually part of our inspiration for making order and import templates. So if you get stuff like Alliance used to do this all the time, where we would ask for a CSV, but they were clearly like our sales reps were just making it. So it was different every single time. There wasn't like a standardized export that they could give us. They were making it by hand. So we made really flexible imports for all this stuff so that you can, bring in the chaos of comics and games. But yeah, the games are basically the same. If we had subscriptions to any of these or special orders for any of this stuff, they would show up here as requests or holds. Yeah, games are very similar to comics, except that they have different metadata. Instead of having a page count, they have a playtime or whatever.
Oftentimes fewer pictures per page.
Way fewer.
Yep.
But more painterly usually.
I love that aspect of them.
Yeah, so you said you do back issues. We kind of showed you the back issue thing in the transactions. We have a quick way to do back issue inventory if you ever want to, like just type in the numbers you have for this series and it knows which box it's in rather than having to, give it a price and a grade and a cover variant or whatever. So you can have somebody who's not a super back issue nerd can take care of that. We've got the messaging system that we talked about. We've got the register reconciliation at the end of the night. It doesn't even make you add up how many dollars worth of pennies you have. You just say I got pennies, and it does the math for all your change. Our inventory updates. This is our inventory process. Basically, you just scan the barcodes and upload it, and it tells you what it doesn't know and what it does know. Tons of reports, which I know you were talking about earlier. So when we brought in our first user, halfway through the day, it was like, hey, where's the report that tells me what I sold today? And I was like, oh no, we've just been hacking into the SQL database to find out for our store. And so we had to make a report for him really quick. And while we did that, we just kind of came up with a way to do reports that's super flexible and pretty quick for us to build. So if there happens to be a report that you wish you had that we can't get to in here, we can build it. Most of these have been requests by users after we knocked out the first handful. Yeah, this was one that we wanted to get, but it just shows kind of the level of detail we can get. This is shelf sales versus sales from people's polls. We're trying to decide whether or not we should get rid of 6 feet of comics on the shelf, on the new this month shelf. And so we built this report, and I'm happy to say that the data was good and the decision was inconclusive. So we left it exactly how it was. um, but
You're
yeah,
embarrassing me.
tons of those. Are there any weird reports that you rely on?
Uh, no, it's mostly just trying to get QuickBooks to give me what I want. We have different interpretations of what that is sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're happy to work with the reports are something that we try to prioritize when somebody asks for a new one because we know that can be time sensitive.
Does it take long to write a query?
Yeah, yeah,
One thing I did see was all that stuff about to-do lists and closing and opening. That looked pretty interesting.
yeah. So the to-do lists here, that's where we manage our closing and opening lists. I'll just jump over to those because it's more interesting to see this. So this is just a to-do list that we made. This is what you should do when you open. It doesn't save it or anything. It's just a reference. But it's helped our staff open and close a little bit better.
Okay.
There's our closing list and then just things to do. Like you got time to lean, you got time to cycle out items from display cases and do issue go backs. Little mnemonic device we came up with. Um, and then projects are another kind of cool thing. So this is what I was talking about where we have items that oversold. Why do we have -1? Well, I'm not going to solve that question while I'm ringing somebody up, and I'm definitely going to forget by the time I'm done ringing them up. So we just throw it in this project. The idea behind these is that any employee should be able to jump into projects and knock this out when they have 3 minutes or so. So these can be created specifically by a person. You can just create a project real quick, or it can be created by the system uh, based on certain actions. We also create projects for our Shopify and customer portal things just to review or tweak or, whatever. Um, yeah. Anything else you want to drill down into on here other than podcast, which isn't done and nobody else can see that nav area yet, I think.
As it is online, what happens when invariably our crappy AT&T service decides that it doesn't want to work for a few minutes?
That happened to us on a Saturday, really early into using the system. And we hadn't even thought of the right answer, which is you can use your mobile hotspot, right? Like we use our phone. We actually bought a phone for the store for $20 a month or something like that. It was cheaper than getting a hotspot. And we use it as a jukebox unless the internet goes out. Then we use it for a jukebox and the internet. Um, but even before that, we had it go down. We didn't think to use our phones as hotspots. And Jeff and I spent from noon until 5 on a Saturday, a really busy Saturday, ringing people up on our phones. And it wasn't super fun and it was a little bit ugly. And we were both sweaty and grumpy by the time it was over, but totally worked. And this was when we didn't have the equipment to take credit cards easily. So we were typing in the credit card with our thumbs. And at the end of the month, it turned out that that was the busiest day of our quarter. And we'd done 5 hours of it on our phones. So, um, yeah, hotspot would be my recommendation.
Alrighty.
A lot cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've gone over just about everything there.
Yeah. It's big.
Hey, listen. Thanks for bearing with us, my friend. I hold myself to a higher standard than I've performed here today, so I appreciate your patience and willing to get in the weeds and play with us. My wife is on a road trip out of town, so I'm in just total disarray.
We're getting ready to head down to Disneyland in a couple days.
Oh God! As a family or as a store?
No, family, wife and kid.
Okay, that's Awesome. How old is your little one?
17 and a half. So
Hell yeah.
last trip to Disneyland on our book.
Yeah, exactly. You're paying for the next one. My wife has never been, so we're Seattle area, and I'm like, we have to go there because it like never gets old.
Yep.
Oh yeah, okay, awesome. We'll have a wonderful time down there. I hope that it's cooler than Arizona, Nevada.
I grew up in Arizona, so
Okay. So you're just like
cooler than
totally
Arizona.
used to it. None of this phases you. You're like, look at this little fella with his little short-circuiting brain.
There, because you don't have a lot of climate control. You just kind of have to deal with the humidity and the heat, right?
Yeah. I set up the air conditioning unit today, but it's just one room of our house and stupidly not this room. So, yeah, I will be.
It's almost simple air up there.
Yeah. I'll be a bedroom boy for the rest of the day after this. But I got a lot of Pink Floyd documentaries to get into. So
There you go.
yeah. We are always glued to our phones, usually in our cold bedroom. So if you've got any questions, if you want to poke around at the demo server, if you want to try and punch holes in this, if you're like, that was way too much and the Ottery one is not professional enough for me, like we totally get all of that. Me being the Ottery one.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, we are always available. So don't hesitate to get a hold of us as you're mulling over some obviously relatively important decisions for your store and life.
No problem. But yeah, I'd like to check out the demo server and talk it over with the wife and the manager and all that and see. But so far, yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks like it does a lot of the stuff we want to do.
Awesome. Yeah, you'll get an email to the demo server. It's been a minute since I refreshed the data on there, but everything works pretty good. So poke it and try to break it. See if it'll do what you need.
Alrighty. Okay. One last question. Database size.
Oh, I love his questions.
You said it's SQL, so it should be fairly large.
Yeah, so it's a MySQL server, or it's a MySQL database running on a MariaDB instance. I don't know what the word for that is. Is it an instance? Anyway, our store is about 370,000 items. We have a store that is, I think, more than double that. So we haven't hit anything that scares us yet with database size.
All right.
The Grain Comics database is 2.5 million items, and those all live on here. So, yeah, we spend money on server hardware to make sure that it can handle that kind of stuff. And at some point, we'll probably be on an RDS situation.
Pretty much every item that comes in will be there forever. It doesn't do cleanups of old stuff, or if I'm looking for a report to pull up something from 3 years ago, it's like, sorry, that's gone.
No, it frustrates people who aren't as smart as you that they can't just delete something. I'm like, no, never. We'll turn it off, but I'm not going to delete it, man. Yeah, so no size limits that we've been able to find yet.
Alrighty.
Yeah, we'll throw more iron at it if we need to.
Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, man. Thank you for hanging out with us, and have a wonderful time at Disneyland, and try to not think about point of sales and inventory and stuff while you're there. That Mickey guy is good at distracting from our problems, I've heard.
Know as well as I do. That never happens. But...
Yeah, okay. Good. All right, man, well, take care.
All right, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Bye.
Stop.